How to deal with a coworker who is out to get you. When it comes to your colleagues, you know that while there are plenty of great ones you'll encounter throughout your working life, there are also plenty of annoying ones who will serve to make your time in the office that much tougher. Untrustworthy coworkers can put a serious damper on any workplace experience. So, it's important to pick out the coworkers that don't deserve your trust early on. Otherwise, they might end up stabbing you in the back. Their behavior. They influence others to treat you differently. If someone you always got along well with suddenly starts to give you the cold shoulder for seemingly no reason, this is one of the most concerning signs that you're being undermined, because this means that the undermining is working, at least with the person who is acting differently towards you. It is imperative to take steps to guard against any additional undermining. They act like the victim. The interesting part about an underminer is that, although they're victimizing you, they themselves often act like the victim. For example, someone who is undercutting you may socially ostracize you, then act like you're leaving him out when you bond with others at work. They take credit or place blame. An underminer is likely to take credit for your work or take full credit for something you worked on together. For example, if you draft a template agreement with your underminer, he is likely to tell your colleagues that he drafted an agreement for their use without ever mentioning your contributions. On the other hand, someone who undermines may also blame you for her shortcomings. For example, if a sales representative you work with provides the wrong version of an agreement to a client, she may blame you, telling you that she gave the client the version you provided to her even if that's not true. They gossip. Someone who is trying to undermine you will likely badmouth others to you and you to others. Underminers criticize but offer no solutions because their goal is to make people look bad, not improve anything. Underminers think they look better if they make others look worse. They treat others a certain way. Interestingly, you can often identify an underminer by the way he treats others. For example, if you witness someone treating your colleagues in a way that minimizes their importance, you may be in the presence of an underminer. If you see someone acting more demanding and entitled than cooperative and collaborative in the workplace, you may be in the presence of an underminer. If you observe someone only focusing on his own achievements and not the triumphs of those around him, you may be in the presence of an underminer. They're envious of your success. An underminer is not happy when you succeed. If you get a promotion, the person doing you wrong is already finding ways to take that promotion from you or get herself promoted. Underminers think of work success as a zero-sum game. If you have more success, underminers feel like they are losing somehow. Healthy coworkers can enjoy your achievements because they understand that multiple people can flourish in the workplace, but an underminer envies your good fortune and resents you for it. As much as it is important to be positive in the workplace, the underminer will prey on your positivity and use it to subtly sabotage you. Thus, if you recognize that someone is undercutting you, keep in mind that she is not happy about your advancement or you may be blindsided by her bad behavior. They direct sabotaging comments and behavior at others as well. This is an interesting hallmark of underminers. Usually, the sandbagging behavior is not targeted. It's usually directed at multiple people. For example, you may have an attorney colleague who you think is undercutting you, and you may observe him sabotaging others. For example, if the assistant Jane takes a day off, the underminer might loudly say to the boss, "Where is Jane today?" When the boss responds that she took the day off, the underminer may reply, loudly, "Oh, okay, I'll just mail this myself." If it's part of an overall pattern, this is classic undermining behavior. It's subtle, but it points out to the boss that the assistant is not available for him when he needs her. Even if she has a legitimate day off, the underminer's goal is to put negative thoughts about the assistant in the boss's head. They put negative thoughts in your head. Someone who is actively undermining you is likely to put negative thoughts in your head or tell you negative stories to get you ginned up and make you unhappy with your boss, your colleagues, your work, or the workplace. The underminer's goal is to make you disgruntled because you'll be less likely to form connections with others and less effective in your role. This allows the underminer to more effectively make you look bad to your colleagues and causes you to underperform in your role. They're competitive in an unproductive way. Competition can be healthy, so not everyone you compete with is undercutting you. Those who undermine engage in an unhealthy form of competition. For example, they may act like they've worked at your company longer than you even if they haven't, saying something like, "We've done it that way for the last 5 years," when you've been there 6 years and your underminer has been there 3 years. Another example of this unhealthy competition is someone shooting down everything you suggest or do, often in front of others, or correcting you in front of colleagues, the legal team, and your boss. They're fake. An underminer's words often don't match their behavior. You may think that you're imagining the subversive behavior because the person doing it may be very friendly to your face, even acting like your buddy. Many of an underminer's activities require some sort of closeness or bond, so they are fake in order to have access to you to put negative thoughts in your head or to perform other negative behaviors. They withhold necessary information from you. Someone who is sabotaging you may withhold necessary information from you to undermine your work. Perhaps an underminer will give you an incorrect date, making you miss a deadline or not give you all the relevant information so that you don't do your best work. What to do? Keep records. The last thing you want to do when you're dealing with a fake coworker is find yourself in the middle of an awful game of, he said, she said. So call it paranoid, but it's important for you to keep accurate records of anything negative, misleading, or mean-spirited that occurs. Whether you end up approaching the person directly or having a discussion with your superior, that supporting documentation will come in handy when you need to add more legitimacy to your complaints. Try to correspond with that colleague using email as much as possible. That's a surefire way to confirm that you have important things in writing. If something happens during a spoken conversation, lay down the date, time, and a description of what occurred. Yes, it can seem like a bit of overkill. But, when you feel like you're dealing with someone who's out to make your life that much harder, you really can't be too careful. Avoid the revenge trap. Whether things improve or not, it can be more than tempting to want to get your revenge. It's only fair that he gets a taste of his own medicine, right? Wrong. As alluring as that siren song of sweet retaliation can be, it's important that you always put your best foot forward in the office, rather than taking the knife out of your own back only to use it on someone else. Your coworkers might not always be moral and ethical, but you don't need to subscribe to that same philosophy. Get some space. So you know for certain that this colleague of yours is fake. Despite her smile and friendly demeanor, she'll throw you under the bus the second you turn around. It's important to create a little bit of distance between the two of you. Since you've confirmed that this person is indeed insincere, engaging in office chatter by the vending machines won't do you any favors. Instead, make your best effort to have some space. You don't need to be blatantly rude or cold. But, avoiding being totally friends and limiting FaceTime will ultimately give her less ammunition to use against you. Have the tough conversation. You could likely deal with the occasional backhanded comment. But, if your issue with this employee seems to be ongoing, it's time to have an honest conversation. Your best bet is to start directly with the person who's causing the problem. Request to schedule a sit-down with him or her where you both can have some private and quiet space to talk. Bring up the behavior that's been bothering you. Perhaps she'll be so taken aback by your direct confrontation that she'll apologize immediately and you both can move on from there. More likely than that, though, she'll deny it profusely. That's frustrating, but you can take comfort in the fact that you've made your point and proved that you won't just roll over and be treated poorly. What if things don't improve after your frank discussion? Then it might be time to bring your concerns and documentation to a superior. Nobody wants to be a tell-all, but you also don't deserve to have to keep tiptoeing around this person. Needing to cope with a fake coworker is never fun. But, unfortunately, it's likely one of those things you're going to need to do every now and then. As long as you're able to keep your distance, cover your own bases, have an honest conversation, and rise above, you'll be much more likely to handle that sticky situation with professionalism and politeness.